Okay, everyone, so we're all here today then. So, first item on the agenda is apologies. Have we got any apologies?
No apologies.
Thank you very much, Chantal. Number 2, anyone got any declarations of interest, please? No? Okay, moving on. So, number 3, meetings of the previous meeting, minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of November 2024. Obviously, is anyone present at that meeting? No, so we take the minutes as read. I'll sign those minutes. So, number 4, move on to Stafford Education Centre Charity. Hand you over to yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll firstly just run through a brief presentation, which was just to give a little bit of background, really, around the charity and a bit of the history. So, as we've been mentioned previously, the object of the charity is the promotion of education of persons between the ages of 14 and 19. And the subject of the provisions of subclause 2 and of the clause of, for children under the age of 14 who are resident in or being educated in Stafford in such ways that the trustees see fit. This also permits the property of the charity to be used for the education of children under the age of 14. There isn't currently any property as part of the charity anyway. Just to give you a bit of history, SEC has supported the partnership delivery of 14 to 19 provision by Stafford 14 to 19 partnership and its predecessor Stafford Collegiate for at least a decade. Probably colleagues might be able to. I've not been covering it for that long, but it is quite a substantial time. And the 14 to 19 partnership is currently formed of 5 local secondary schools. So we've got Blessed William Howard, Kincaidwood 6, Sir Graham Balfour, Stafford Manor and Western Road. The Collegiate and the partnership were both granted the use of part of the charity-owned building, which was the Chetwynd Centre, to use as an office space and for educational delivery, alongside funding to support their delivery costs. The Chetwynd Centre was in the permanent endowment of SEC, and the council held the land and buildings on trust, and the trustees approved for the sale of that centre, and that was completed in early 2018. So the funds from that sale have been added to the endowment investment. And then following that, in June 18, the committee meeting, the trustees approved in principle to Stafford 14 to 19 partnership to be supported via the charity with financial contributions on a rolling 5-year basis, subject to production of a business plan being approved and produced and then approved by the trustees. And then funding requests as part of that business plan usually include items around salaries of partnership admin and management staff, wider partnership costs and resources to support the objectives, top up to enable minority subject teaching, and funding to deliver activity support young people at risk of becoming NEET, which not in education, training or employment, and to stretch the gifted and talented. The partnership governance, members of the skills and employability team at the council are involved in the business planning process with the partnership and are a member of the partnership's governance forum. And I believe trustees are offered the opportunity to attend to learn more about the partnership should they wish. At each committee meeting, I usually present my paper, and the chair, Matt Mason here from Sir Graham Balfour, of the partnership, presents an update on the progress and outcomes and the benefits that the charity funding is providing. And that was my brief bit from before. Shall I just leave this now, Chantal? Oh, right, okay. I think Matt has got a few slides just to give you a bit more background about the partnership and its work, and then I'll present my paper if that's okay with you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. As Alison's just said, my name is Matthew Mason. I'm head teacher at Sir Graham Balfour School in Stafford, and I'm also the chair of the 14 to 19 partnership, so that's why I'm here today. I've put a little bit of background on that slide there, but Alison's already covered the majority of that, so I'll just skip on. The benefits of what the partnership offers for young people in the town of Stafford, it allows us to work with all 14 to 19-year-olds across the town. For the 16 to 19-year-olds, so these are the students who are studying A-levels, the funding does allow us to offer a really broad curriculum with more subjects and more flexibility for students that would be beyond the capabilities of schools if they were working by themselves. And it allows the students in the schools to take advantage of the well-qualified subject experts that we have delivering these subjects. The A-level students, the 16 to 19-year-olds, they do receive high-quality pastoral care, and they do receive a real good level of careers advice, leading to high retention rates and higher aspirations. I will be able to show you some data about that in a second. And then we also have the Raising Aspirations funding as well, and that's where we work with 14 to 16-year-olds. Some of the work in the Raising Aspirations Fund is targeted to help us try and prevent students from not entering education, employment or training, so becoming NEET, and also to raise the aspirations of some 14 to 16-year-olds who are capable of accessing higher education but maybe just don't yet know it. If you have a look on the board there, you can see this is our curriculum offer that we have. And what we've got is the curriculum's divided into 4 different blocks. And each school has, it's typically 3 or 4 subjects, 2, 3 or 4 subjects in each block. And you can see the wide variety of pathways through that it allows the students to take. This flexibility is really, really important because it keeps the students able to study the subjects that they're really interested in, they're really passionate in, and that they want to go away and build, either build further education on or build a career on as well. It allows us to offer minority subjects. It allows us to share the teaching for minority subjects as well to keep them running. For example, if you can see French in block 3, at the moment, although it's got the headline of being taught at Balfour, we are actually sharing the teaching for French with colleagues from Western Road and colleagues from Blessed William Howard next year, and that allows that subject to be kept on the curriculum because we didn't have the amount of teacher hours left, so it does allow us to share staffing, and that's really cost effective. We've also got a lot of experienced staff as well, who've got a real proven track record in getting kids through the qualifications and getting them succeeding well and achieving well and into high quality universities. So the impact that the partnership's having. Stafford 6-1 partner schools, we do have a high percentage of students continuing in full-time education than the Stafford district and the local authority average. You can see the evidence of that's on page 13 of the business plan. We also have fewer students not in education, employment and training. I can give the example of my school there, Balfour. We had 1.7% of our students who left in 2023. The information on this comes out typically a year or 2 after because they have to do the surveys, and that's against a Staffordshire average of 2.5%. And we had 96.1% continuing in structured learning versus an average for Staffordshire of 93%. Ofsted currently grade provision as good in all 6 forms, and the narrative of the Ofsted report does pick out work on careers and aspirations as particular strengths. Exam outcomes are strong, so average point score per A-level qualification in the county was 32.7 last year, and the Stafford 6-1 partnership it was 33.8. We've got a real good track record of getting students into university, as I've said, so 100% of students who applied got a place in university, and then we're getting really good numbers through starting degrees at the Russell Group universities. We've got a lot more students also entering further education to study the STEM subjects, which is really important to our local economy, and we've also got a growing strength in those entering further education to study in the field of medicine. So that encompasses everything from midwifery right up to being a doctor. Yep.
Yeah. Regarding NEET, what are the trends on that?
It's come down a little bit in the last few years. There was a big jump post-pandemic, and that's where the students weren't able to go and visit kind of colleges and apprenticeship providers and things like that. It is slowly coming down, but there's with the students who are at risk of becoming NEET, it's we have to identify them when they're in year 9, year 10, and a lot of work goes on to try and to try and get them signed up to a course and starting courses.
How do you identify the risk of becoming NEET?
You look at it's a combination of a few things. You look at attendance in school, you look at behaviour in school, you look at whether or not they're on track to achieve the grades that they need to begin courses at college or get on apprenticeships. And you also use it based on your conversations with the students about whether or not they've got a clear plan or a clear idea of what it is that they want to do when they leave school. And then the final impact that we've got is we've just agreed formal partnerships this year with our local Russell Group University, our local research university, and our local kind of vocational focused university with the University of Staffordshire. So we've got formal partnerships with the University of Birmingham, Keele University, and the University of Staffordshire. And this is going to bring a huge range of opportunities for the students in the sixth form schools. It goes from reduced offers if they from the University of Birmingham, for example, if they work closely with the University of Birmingham, instead of offering them, for example, I don't know, entry grades of, it could be 3 A's, they might give them 2 A's and a B, so they're more likely to go on. And Keele University and the University of Staffordshire are going to do a lot of enrichment for us, where our students will be able to go up and use science labs, engineering workshops, sports science facilities there as well, which I'm really excited about. And I've also got a meeting, hopefully, either the end of this week or when we come back in September, with the new leadership of the Stoke and Stafford Institute of Technology, which is that wonderful gleaming building that's just been put up as well. And I want to develop a lot closer links with that as another route into real high value higher education for the partnership students.
Shall I present the paper now? So my report shares the updated 24-29 business plan from Stafford 14 to 19 partnership, which includes an updated operational plan for the upcoming academic year and provides an update on progress against this year's actions. I've also summarised the funding requests made to SEC trustees within the business plan. The committee had, at last year's meeting, agreed in principle to fund an estimated request of £160,188. My report and the business plan confirm a slightly increased request of £161,076. The reason for the increase is due to awaiting some charges that were incurred during last financial year, and therefore the amount transferred at the end of 24-25 was £1,084 less than the value that had previously been approved. So it's sort of the request is essentially shifted a little bit of money that would have gone out at the end of 24-25 financial year into the following financial year.
What's caused these charges to be delayed then?
Oh, now you're going to test me on the
It was, we didn't receive an invoice on time, is what it was. It was for some IT software that we purchased, and the invoice didn't come through for us to pay
So
it.
were you aware this was due when you asked for the money from us in the first place?
Yeah.
So why wasn't that included in the evaluation then? So why did you ask for 888 less than what you needed, if you knew that was coming?
It's been added up because we didn't know. It was expected to come out of last year, but it didn't come, so we've had to roll it forward to this year, so that's why it's been added on. And we will have to keep it on for 6 years because they can come back at any point to put it on there. Does that make sense?
My report shares a breakdown of how the funding will be utilised in order to continue the delivery of the collaborative offer to young people of Stafford. the majority of which supports the central partnership staff team and resources required to ensure the delivery is coordinated, and the remaining supports the teaching of minority subjects and provision of activities for those at risk of not participating in educational training or to further challenge or raise aspirations of others. My report further sets out the anticipated value of the request for 2026-27 year, which is currently 159,993. So I'm therefore recommending that the committee reviews and decides whether to approve the updated business plan and considers the approval of the funding requests for 25-26 and 26-27, and also requests that approval is given for the Council's Assistant Director for Skills and Employability to continue to be authorised to approve the release of those funds for the 26-27 element.
Okay. Anyone got any questions they'd like to bring up then? Councillor Byrne?
I'm just interested to know, is there anything that we need to be aware of by any of the officers or anything? Because obviously we're new to this, and to approve something, I think we need to be fully aware. Have we got all the information, and is there anything further? Thank you very much.
Chair, if I can just come in. The slide that we put up about the summary of charity finances, that shows that the income for the Stafford Education Centre charity is around £160,000 to £170,000 a year, and that's generated from their investment. So within that scope, you can approve the amount that's been requested. One thing you should just be mindful of is this charity doesn't just permit the partnership. There could be other funding requests for anybody that is covered by the 14 to 19 arrangement. We haven't had any to date, but there would be a little bit of surplus if any other requests came forward.
By a little bit, how much are we talking, please?
We've probably got about 100,000 in reserves, just over 125 in reserves.
So in a general year, is this about how much they normally take? Okay, so we've got no more questions. Anything from yourself, Councillor Byrne? No. Okay. So in that case then, we shall read back out the recommendations and we shall vote whether we are okay to take those on then. So just to reiterate, I know that you've just read that yourself. So the recommendations as required. The trustees and the Charities and Trust Committee. The trustees of the Charities and Trust Committee to A, review and approve the updated Stafford 14 to 19 Partnership Business Plan 2024-2029, hereinafter called the Business Plan. The business plan includes a section showing achievements against previous year's operational plan, as well as a section detailing the operational plan. So B, we need to consider for approval the funding request to the Stafford Education Centre charity, register number 528604, as set out in the business plan for 25-26 and 26-27 years. If approved, the release of the funds will be from the charitable income, interest from the capital investment of the permanent endowment and the Stafford Education Centre charity. 25-26, some requested is 161,076, as set out in the business plan, page 40 and 45, small increase of £888 on the amount 160,188 approved in principle by trustees at the 11th of June 2024 committee meeting. For 26-27 year, the staff 14 to 19 partnership is, if sufficient funds available, making a request for funding support of 159,993 as set out in the business plan, page 46. And C, approve Staffordshire County Council Assistant Director, Skills and Employability to continue to be authorised to approve the release of funds set out above, subject to the successful delivery of the 25-26 element of the business plan. Vote in favour? Anyone against? Abstentions? Okay. The business plan is approved. Thank you all very much for your attendance. Look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
So item 5 on the agenda is the Tamworth Youth Centre Fund.
Thank you. Members are being asked to reaffirm a previous decision to sell Tamworth Youth Centre to Tamworth Borough Council, and then to use the proceeds to create an endowment and to set up a system of granting the income of that money for the charitable objectives, and then to delegate to me to agree all the documents required in order to enact that. So just a quick summary then. So the fund is currently the former Tamworth Youth Centre property plus a small amount of endowment money. They're in the centre of Tamworth, in the Gungate area, and this is relevant in when we come on to the valuation of the property. So there's also property there owned by the County Council in its corporate capacity outside of the trust, and also Tamworth Borough Council. The Borough Council have got a master plan for redevelopment of that area, and again that becomes relevant. Well, in a minute I will give you a bit of a history of some of the properties, a brief history. So you can see on the plan the relevant property in terms of what the County Council is responsible for. So that covers the whole of the area of the site, including the youth centre, and then there's a plan with just the youth centre element on as well, and also something showing the Borough Council area. So a previous committee in June 2021 agreed to make an application to the Charity Commission to amend the scheme, the objectives of the charity, to allow for the sale of the youth centre and then to use the money for the purposes of the charity. Subsequent to that, we were approached by the Borough Council to see if we'd sell all of our assets in that area for the Gungate Master Plan project. So they've got some future high streets funding to enable that. The Charity Commission granted an order on the 12th of November to permit the sale, and we've got that included in the report as well. That was alluded to earlier in terms of the process that we've been through and the time that can take. As you can see from the dates, quite some considerable time. In order to dispose of the property, members will be aware of the requirement to get appropriate value for it. So it's been externally valued, independently valued by a chartered surveyor, and that report is included in the documents. There is a reminder then of the role of the trustees, just to remind you that the decision that you're making isn't in relation to the Gungate redevelopment, it isn't in relation to the sale of the other county council properties. It is really about the use of this building. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a bit of a summary in terms of the previous documents that talk about, well, why did we get into that situation? So the County Council ceased to deliver youth services itself sometime around 2014. And what the council did, so it's got a number of youth centres, the majority of them aren't held as trust assets, they're corporate properties from the County Council. What the County Council said was, it's not going to deliver youth services, but it will make buildings available to people rather than just sell them. So the County Council went through an exercise of trying to find anchor tenants to run these properties, and the anchor tenants could run activities of their own out of these, because most sort of youth work was out of hours, so the buildings were generally open empty in the daytime and used evenings and weekends. So that kind of fitted, if you like. You can generate a little bit of value, and these anchor tenants paying the running costs and allowing activities out of hours, and the County Council, and indeed in this case in terms of the charity, would receive no rent for them. So that's how they worked. This particular property was run by I think it was Alcohol Dependency Services, and then after that Humankind. So drug and alcohol related services were the anchor tenant. but we could never, ADS did it for a few years and then Humankind took over, but Humankind would never have a lease and contribute to the running costs of the property. Well, they do the running costs, the annual ones, but they wouldn't do larger items of maintenance. So we had a fundamental problem with them there. Subsequent to that, by the way, Humankind no longer deliver any of those services for the County Council. They're now run by Midlands MPFT, Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust, and they don't use that building. They're using other properties in Tamworth. So the building it eventually became vacant with no anchor tenant to run it or look after it. You'll see in the previous reports at the time that happened, there was essentially really only a tennis table club and Tamworth Radio running out of it. So the only contribution towards the objectives of the charity was the children in the table tennis club that played table tennis. So we had this fundamental problem in that we hadn't got an anchor tenant, we'd only got the table tennis club, and it hadn't got any funds for maintenance. That's why in 2021 we came to the committee and said, what can we do with this? You know, there is an option to release the asset and then create the endowment and therefore use that money to fulfil the objectives, because it isn't currently doing that. Part of that process...
Thank you. Just a quick question. What's the cost on an annual basis to the council to maintain these buildings?
Well, the County Council hasn't spent any money on it either, so we've just got minimal holding costs at the moment. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head what they are, because we're not heating the building. We're only running the fire alarm and burglar alarm.
So just to build on what Councillor Hall's just asked, at the minute the only running costs then they're coming out of the endowment effectively, are they? Or where's the money coming from that he's actually covering it?
So the County Council, sorry, I should have said this, that in 1977 the County Council took a lease from the trust, and so it's the County Council's obligation. So if we don't sell this, the County Council just has to keep running the property, and unless we can find another use for it, we will do it basically in the way it is at the moment, which is just to kind of keep it ticking over, for want of a better phrase.
So just to clarify, there's no maintenance, it's literally just alarms and all that sort of stuff. There's no upkeep costs at the moment.
No, we're in the situation that if we wanted to put the building, have some sensible use of it, we'd have to upgrade the boilers. So it's watertight, but fairly. It hasn't had any significant amount of maintenance for about 10 years, so the boilers need replacing. That kind of thing. As I say, we are just keeping the electrics on. We would have to do probably some electrical upgrades, because it's not been the County Council's responsibility around fixed electrical testing and that kind of thing. So that's something that we'd have to look into. So heating, electrics, redecoration. I think the main point is, though, as part of the Charity Commission process, we did some local consultation, we reviewed the use of it, we went out and said, is anybody else prepared to take over the use of this building? And nobody came forward on that. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, as a new person coming into this, two things I'd like to just raise with you. Firstly, what communication did you to try and find people to use this building? And secondly, there's a couple of Staff's County Council, and did you say the Borough or the Town Council, are involved with selling this site, including this, and redeveloping. Is there not a conflict of interest? And so I think we, as new trustees, I think we really need to understand what has happened and be very transparent about it.
So, two questions on the... I think you need to turn your mic off if I'm speaking, thanks, because it's about the camera. And where it points to. So the consultation process, we agreed with the Charity Commission. Vanessa probably knows a little bit more about it than I do, but we used skivvies as part of the consultation. We did a standard consultation process in terms of our website. Local members were aware of it. Tamworth Borough Council were aware of it. So we did try to do some promotion of the consultation.
So you say some. Do you really think it was adequate? Because I think we need to be clear on this, otherwise when it's not meeting the charitable status or its rules, was it? Thank you.
So we, the consultation was advertised in the property, so the people that were using it on a day-to-day basis had access to it. It was advertised on the County Council's website, and it was also, as Ian said, passed to skivvies who specialise in dealing with groups and youths of the age of the... So they went out to everybody that they knew locally in the area that might have be able to have the benefit of the property. And nobody, I think one person showed interest, but they weren't able to support the running costs of the building, so it wasn't a viable long-term solution. That consultation went back to the Charity Commission, and they were happy with the outcome of the consultation and that we'd done all that we needed to do to advertise it.
Your second point was around conflict of interest. So the county council isn't involved in this, in the purchase at all. So when it comes to disposing of a charity asset, if you do this, normally you would do an open market sale, and that's what you do. If in the valuation report here, though, because the county council is selling its interest in the site to Tamworth Borough Council through a separate process that goes through property subcommittee, we asked a valuer to say, well, is there what's called synergistic value? Used to be called marriage value in the past in terms of an increase. So that's covered in the valuer's report. So the valuer's report is saying, if you do this sale in this way, you will get the best value. And it isn't to Staffordshire County Council. So there's no conflict of interest within the County Council in that regard. And it is the valuer, and they're quite clear on their obligations in terms of charity commission sales. Thank you.
I think you mentioned that Tamworth Radio had some involvement in this. Because I think that, I haven't read it, it's new to me, but Councillor Farrell is the Managing Director of Tamworth Radio, and Tamworth Council wanting to buy this property. Is there any conflict of interest there, or?
I don't believe so. I don't believe Tamworth Borough Council have any specific interest in Tamworth Radio. I take the point about the personality, but I think it's different purposes. So what we did with any of the tenants in here was to try to help them in terms of a sensible exit from the property, to find other places. So they've had plenty of time to do that. So I don't see a conflict of interest there. I don't think Tamworth Borough Council specifically are advantaged or disadvantaged. I mean, what we're talking about is a couple of days a week for two people in a room just to broadcast, and they did do, I don't know where they are at the moment, I'm afraid, but they did do some from kind of remotely and some from home and some from a kind of a studio set up in the building, which they've now moved somewhere else. So I think that's the background. Essentially, the County Council didn't use it any longer as a youth centre. The organisations that were anchor tenants went away, so therefore there was a problem there in terms of running that. Under the lease, it could be that the County Council holds. This is the potential conflict of interest here, is that the trust currently has a lease to the County Council, and so as trustees you could say, no, we're perfectly happy letting the County Council own the property and that, but there is no obligation on the County Council to run any services from it. So the objectives of the charity, unless corporately the County Council changes its view on this, there will be no activity in there that benefits the objectives of the charity. And that's what was seen coming forward in terms of trying to say, well, can we take this forward so that there's an endowment for money to be used? in a similar sense to the previous item in the Chetwynd Centre, in reality, that they weren't going to deliver those educational services out of that building anymore, I think in that circumstance, because it was too expensive. So if we don't do anything, unless the county council changes its mind and decides to do something different, the building will just continue to sit empty. Thank you.
So basically, in summary, the asset's not delivering anything, really, but what we're saying, the sale of the asset, then we can buy an endowment from that and then use that money for the good of the charity. That's in brief.
Yes.
So the funds that are held on the behalf of this at the moment that's generating the small income such as it is that from money left to the charity? Where's that money come from that's been held at the minute, regardless of the property sale?
Some invested in CCLA. It was one of the lines on that chart that we said at the end. So
But is it so that money that's held, that's been there for years, it's already so what's been happening with that then? So that's already been held for effectively a charity that's, well, the charity's still there, but it's not doing anything, is it, at the minute? It's not been active for nearly 10 years, over 10 years. So the charity, for all intents and purposes, is defunct. What's this money been used for the last 10 years?
it's just sitting there. So basically, there's just under 80,000 in permanent endowment, which has generated income. It was actually quite an active charity up until 10 years ago because they did used to buy things for the youth club. But obviously when we pulled out, there wasn't a youth club. So we've now got also 22,500 sitting on temporary investment with the county council.
So in the 10 years, effectively, it's grown from 80 odd to 100,000,
yeah,
give or take.
But we've not invested that permanent endowment because it's the income generated that they can spend. So if the new arrangement comes into play, skivvies can actually utilise that 22,000 straight away in awarding grants in the local area in accordance with the charity objectives.
So that brings me on to my next question then, is the proposed use of the funds if the building's sold. So we said that the building's going to be sold and redistributed for things in the area that can apply for it. My main purpose is charity was set up to help the children and the youth of Tamworth. So I want to make sure it's still being used for that purpose, which is the fundamental point of it. We've said it's not, the building's no longer being used for that purpose now, barring that table tennis club that you mentioned. Who's going to be in charge of distributing the funds to the relevant petitioners?
So that's the proposal, is that skivvies, who Staffordshire Council for Voluntary Youth Services, and they're quite active in the Tamworth area. So the proposal is that they do that. Now, initially we'll do it on a kind of request basis, and then we'll bring the updates in terms of where the money's spent to you. So because it's the Stafford partnership that we've just seen there is quite a well-established one, so this is new. So what we want to do is say, well, okay, well, so where's the need in the local area? And we can be quite flexible about that if you want to, in terms of, do we want to see a business plan beforehand, or do we just want to see how it goes over a period of time? In terms of what that money's being put to use of. But the report asks for that to be delegated to me in terms of agreeing that and agreeing a plan in terms of where that money's spent. As I say, if you'd like to see that beforehand, then that's perfectly fine.
Yes, please. I want to make sure that was said it is being used for the purpose of it. If we're going to effectively completely change the purpose of the charity from being a youth centre to a distribution charity, effectively, I want to make sure that it is being used in the correct method to advantage the children of that area.
So just to add to that, so would we be looking at what 12 to 18-year-olds that be focused on, since that's youth club age, or is that too narrow, please?
I believe it was 25 when I read the thing.
I think you just answered the question. I think it is under 25s, isn't it, in the Tamworth area?
Apologies, obviously you know more detail than I do, but I thought a youth club traditionally was for 12 to 18-year-olds. That's why I'm sort of asking the question, to be honest.
Absolutely. In the pack thing that we had through, we did mention that the youth centre went up to 25. A lot of the ones do go up a little bit over. It's more youth rather than children.
Would you like me to read out the objective? Okay.
Does anyone else have anything they want to ask about this? do we have the information we want to make the vote on this now?
Well, I just want to
Baker?
confirm that all the paths have been looked at for the building, and this is the best option on the table, and I think I'll be happy with that. And yeah.
Yeah, so this has been going on for a long time. I think all of those people in that area who know about that property and the previous users have all been involved in that. They've all had the opportunity to say, is there a different way of running the property? What we find is we have an issue that there isn't somebody who's got enough activity to run the property. That's there. So as I say, the property unfortunately would just sit empty and therefore wouldn't meet the objectives of the charity. We have gone through quite a process with the Charity Commission. So I mean, the point of comfort for you as members is they are happy with this process and they have consented to the change of the charity objectives, given all that information that's in the background documents there. So yeah, I mean, we believe that there isn't a future for that building, and that's why the proposal was put forward previously. And before Tamworth Borough Council had got their project. So that's the other thing. This isn't Tamworth Borough Council have asked for the property and then do we do this? It happened the other way around.
I think there must be a cost. I mean, I've got some notes here that it costs 63,000 to run over 6 years or something, from 15 to 21, and I don't know. I guess whoever was in it was picking that up by way of rent or maintenance. But I mean, I'd be a lot happier if we could see a saving to the council, you know, and there must be savings to the council of, you know, of some kind of maintenance, or even just keeping it watertight.
Well, firstly, that shouldn't be a consideration of the trustees. In theory, if you could get the county council to run the property for its benefit and for the objectives, because of the lease agreement, then you know that's a consideration that you have to make. So we aren't really considering any saving to the county council. The county council hasn't spent significant money. It's only had holding costs while it's been empty, and it is also a deterioration in the property. So the county council would have costs, and that's something you might want to consider. If there was a benefit in the future that anybody could see, and therefore the county council somehow under its existing lease investing money in the property, so somebody came along in the future and ran it, then that would be a consideration for you. But then that would be a potential future use for the building under the charity objectives. That would be a problem for the county council, because in theory would have to invest in the property. The county council might well come back and say, we're not going to invest in the property, that's for a future user to upgrade it, install new boilers, do all the work that's required to it that hasn't been spent over the last 10 years. So I think it's a separate matter, to be honest, but it's a difficult one when it's the county council and your county councillors. I understand that. And what I would say is the Charity Commission have gone into a lot of detail around potential conflicts of interest, because they see exactly that point that you're making.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I just go back to the facts. As you say, the Charities Commission have accepted this, and I think that's the overriding factor for myself. And they've put due processing, and basically I think we should have confidence in that. Thank you.
In terms of timescales for this, it's got to be done ASAP, I believe, to do the valuations. This has got to be decided. There's a timescale, I believe, isn't there?
So previously when this was brought to this committee, we'd had a valuation done, but again, one of the Charity Commission's rules is you've got to have a valuation within the last 6 months. So that's the only timescale constraint here.
So when's the latest this can be approved or declined for that valuation?
So the date is June this year, so any time within the middle of June, so within 5 months.
So by the end of June, so has it got to be done by the end of this month, so e.g. before the 1st of July?
No, so the valuation will run out of time by in 5 months' time.
Right, okay, so evaluation's just been done this month, my apologies. So we've got 5 months to effectively make the decision if we don't decide we want to do that decision today. Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Has anyone got any other questions they want to ask at the moment? Right, well, I've got 2 proposals then. We can either vote on this today, however it is very detailed, it's got a lot of information. Based on what Ian's just said, my first proposal is, do we effectively take a rain check and the 5 of us can discuss this separately, then come back to vote on this in the next meeting, or do we carry on and get what's done today?
I think we've had a huge amount of detail and we've got the Charities Commission who are fully behind this. I don't see why we can't vote on it today.
Kate?
Thank you. Just on a point of procedure, the motion, the recommendation needs to be put today. So it's either agreed or not today, rather than deferred. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So in that case then, definitely no more questions. So should we vote? All in favour of the proposal to sell... Oh, sorry, read the things out first, haven't I? Apologies. So the recommendations and the actions required. So A is reaffirm the previous decision, sell the Tamworth Youth Centre to Tamworth Borough Council and use the sale proceeds to create an annual grants programme to further charitable objectives. And B, delegate approval to the Assistant Director for Commercial and Assets to agree the final form of all documents required to complete the sale and establish the grant programme, including but not limited to sale, contract, transfer, deed of release and deed of surrender. All in favour? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is passed. Okay, so item 6, exclusion of the public. So I'm moving that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, which involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in the paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A, as amended, the Local Government Act 1972, indicated below. I believe we have nothing in that agenda. So unless there's any other business today, we should conclude the meeting for this point. Thank you very much for your attendance. Look forward to seeing you all at the next one.